Hello, welcome to PoSHBreakfast 009. Just to take note that this is a post-recorded introduction video after the session was recorded on 21st March. PoSHBreakfast is an event that is held on a monthly basis by the Singapore PowerShell user group. It runs on a Saturday morning from 8:30 Singapore time and will stretch out to around 10:30 Singapore time depending on the amount of awesome content that is being brought to you by PowerShell enthusiasts. Today, we are thrilled to have PowerShell MVP from India, Deepak Dami, to share with us on PowerShell plus Configuration Manager. Deepak is my former colleague from AirWatch by VMware, and he has created amazingly lots of automation within the organization. Deepak is the co-lead at PowerShell user group in Bangalore, and is always out there looking at means to automate processes. In this session, we would like to share about the PowerShell module capability in Configuration Manager and ways to optimize your WMI script. Just before that, up next is after this session, Power Breakfast in April will be delivered by Matthew Hitchcock, where he will talk about Azure Remote App, and we'll have our next PowerShell clinic in May, probably sometime in the first week of May, and the rest of the activities such as PowerShell Saturday is to be confirmed, and PowerShell for beginners is tentatively in May for the part 2. Thank you.
Okay, so I think everyone is able to see my config manager. Okay, yeah, it's okay. So I'll skip this slide. I only have 2 or 3 slides. So welcome everyone. This is sort of a kickstart for config manager admins. We had done a very similar session on our Bangalore PowerShell user group, but we got carried away because the level of audience there was actually not familiar with PowerShell, so we went over and did a PowerShell beginners, and we promised that we'll be doing a sort of a online hangout session. So here it is. So we thank Singapore PowerShell user group for inviting me to give a session on Config Manager. But quickly skip over to my details at blog@dexterposh.com, and my Twitter handle is dexterposh. I work at AirWatch by VMware. Milton is my fellow counterpart in Singapore team. So quickly skipping over to the agenda. So I have a config manager lab running on Azure. I patched it to CU4, and actually I was surprised because I see a lot of PowerShell enhancements in CU4, and that has been a trend with config manager nowadays. Since SP1, we had officially got the PowerShell module shipping with Configuration Manager. So at that time, it was basically you had to open a 32-bit PowerShell console host and then load the Config Manager module and then start doing this stuff. That was actually the implementation before. But since Config Manager 2012 R2, we officially got everything on 64-bit. So the module loads perfectly on 64-bit PowerShell console host, and we are able to just use it. So before we hop on, wanted to show you something called debug view with the console. Okay, just let me know, Milton, if there are any glitches. So what I mean by debug view is normally config manager admins, they use the console, but they skip out on a node called the tools at the end. If you see tools, there's something called namespaces. So that's a handy way of actually exploring the WMI classes which come up with the config manager SMS provider. So how configuration manager works is, in simple words, there's a database, there's configuration manager sitting on top of it, and it wraps everything, like most of the stuff which you do from the console via a WMI provider. We call it SMS provider, and it resides on a namespace, a particular namespace, which is on a server which has SMS provider role installed. Only on that server. You can have multiple servers having that. So you just have to choose one particular server, point your PowerShell machine to talk to that particular WMI namespace, and you can do a lot of stuff. So before that, if you actually want to use console to explore a bit, you have to actually modify the shortcut a bit. So what you do is actually you go to the shortcut, go to the properties, and at the target, if you see at the end, okay, let me zoom in if I can. Okay. My Zoom it is working. Let me open the Zoom it. Okay. So if you see, you have to put a SMS debug view, SMS colon debug view. So once you put that, you'll be able to actually see that tools node at the end. So how do you use it? You can actually select a class, a particular class. So just go with SMS AD domain, okay, and click on show details. So it gives you the whatever you do in PowerShell console, get WMI object minus class, a particular instance of the WMI class. It gives you that. Okay, someone pinged me. Okay, so you see all the properties on it, methods. Not sure you get those. And instances, like it shows you the class details and then the instances if there are any. So that's using actually exploring WMI using the console itself. Okay, and what else you can do is you can go into any node. Okay, I'm going to the access and compliance, the devices. Okay, I can go to any machine and right click. At the end, you'll see that I got a show object details. This will only be enabled when you have that debug view enabled on your console. So once that is there, you just click on it and it takes you again to the tools node. But this time you should see the URL it has changed and actually showing you the WMI instance. So if I look at the properties, I'll see that all the attributes are actually filled. So the domain is this, and that's actually equivalent to getting the WMI instance back on PowerShell console. Okay, so that being said, the second thing is we'll get started with the how to actually get started with console. So the easiest way is right at the top, you do a connect via Windows PowerShell. You can actually modify this to open with IC. So ConfigMgr MVP Kaido. I think he recently blogged about how to actually change this. You can actually modify the ConfigMgr console a lot. There's an inbuilt exe which lets you do that. So you can actually let IC to open up the PowerShell module itself. So why do we have this option here? Why can't we just go ahead and import the ConfigMgr module in a normal PowerShell session? That's because the ConfigMgr PowerShell module doesn't reside in one of the PS module paths. So that's the thing to look out for. Mostly the seasoned PowerShell admins would love to do this: get module minus list available minus name config star something like that, but it doesn't give you anything back because the ConfigMgr PowerShell module doesn't reside in one of the PS module paths. Okay, I think that's environment variable PS module path. So it doesn't reside on one of these locations, it resides somewhere else. You don't have to actually remember it because when you install a ConfigMgr console on a machine, it populates an environment variable by this name, SMS underscore admin underscore UI underscore path. So this is the location, not exactly, it's in the bin directory. So let me just open that up. I'm just opening the UA path. So it doesn't reside over here, it resides in the bin directory. So if I go to the configuration manager, so you see the PSD1, the PowerShell PSD1 file is here, over here. You have to actually import it. So what you do is, most people actually have modified this a bit. So what?
Hey Deepa, could you make the PowerShell form bigger?
Okay, how do I forget that?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Is it better?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I was showing was there's an environment variable, SMS admin UI path, which actually points one level down, one folder down. So we are only bothered about till this over here. So you can actually use split path or your regular. If you're good with manipulating strings, you can use that to get you the path on the fly. So usually this is what I do. Go to environment SMS admin UI path. Okay, I get till the end, and what I do is at the end I just do a ConfigurationManager PSD. I have to wrap it inside everything. Okay, I have to put it inside quotes. Again, sub expression. I get the whole path. So what I can do is now import module and give this particular string over here. It does the uses the sub expression and it just calculates the path for you. Or if you're good with actually manipulating the using the substring on that particular thing, then you can use that also. So there are a lot of preferences going on. Or if you are using actually log onto a config manager console, you just go there and do a connect via Windows PowerShell. So another odd thing about the config manager PowerShell experience is you always need to be on the CM side provider. So when you actually do a connect via Windows PowerShell, it loads up a CM side provider for you. So if you see over here, this is my CM side provider. This DEX is actually my site code. That's my primary site, and it's pointing to that. So what I've actually seen people trip over this particular thing. So when they do, suppose there's a get CM site commandlet which gives you the site information, they go over to a file system directory and they try to run it, and they get this error. So, and the error, if you read it, clearly states that you cannot run this from the current drive, and that's because the CM site provider handles when you execute a command, it handles all the backend communication. So it initiates a communication to the SMS provider and all those sorts of things over the WQL. So you always have to be in that particular directory to run the commandlet. So when you are in that particular directory, the commandlet executes fine. And that's one of the scenarios, like somebody posted it in TechNet, I believe, that he was trying to use orchestrator to open up a remote session, PS session to the config manager machine where config manager console was installed, and he was not able to actually do a few things. So how do you do that is, let me quickly open up a PS session to this machine itself and show you. So basically what you do is you just do, let me increase the font size over here also. Okay, so what you do is, most of this stuff is basically import the module, so whatever I showed before, and get command minus module gives you all the commandlets with configuration manager PowerShell module. Okay, and you update the help, you look at the full help for each commandlet while exploring. That's the basic. So talking about the orchestration scenarios where you are using, suppose a workflow which gets triggered on a remote machine. So you connect over PS session and you open a PS session to the machine and you start running commands over the PS session, but it doesn't work. So the first thing which you need to do is obviously import the module. But at the end, you should be actually changing your current location to the CM site provider. So that's the only gotcha with that. And once you're using orchestration or any other workflow tool to actually automate things on a configuration manager. So let me quickly run this. I'm gonna copy it and just paste it over here. So it opens up PS session and it's invoking the command. And at the end, if you see, it's setting my location to my CM site provider. And when I do this, it runs. If you don't do the last part, it'll just throw you in the same error which tells you you need to move to that particular location to in order to run the config manager commands. Okay. So config manager admins actually trouble a lot, like they are haunted by boundaries. So I'm not here to actually tell you guys which particular boundary type to use. I'm just over here to actually demonstrate how easy it is to use PowerShell to manipulate boundaries for you. So if you're looking to get all the boundaries on a particular site, you should just get CM boundary to run against your current whichever site you are connected to. So if I just do a get CM boundary, get -CM boundary, that's so with the CD4, the good thing is with verbose, you see a lot of extra information, and that's very informative and very useful. Why? Because at some point of time you might try to automate something from a machine which doesn't have a config manager console or the PowerShell module is installed on it. And if you're looking to automate something, then you'll have to actually head over to WMI. So this is the WQL query which gets used. So what you can do is replace all those things with the WMI equivalents, WMI calls. So it just works because behind the hood, if you see, if I just do get member over this particular output, you'll see that it gives me the WMI objects back wrapped. They are wrapped over as a this particular type, but they are eventually WMI objects. So SMS underscore boundary. Okay, we in a little bit we'll also talk about how to actually script against the SMS provider. So that is coming. So get same boundary gives you all the list of the boundaries. Okay, and if you want to quickly create a boundary, you can use new CM boundary. You have to give the type can be IP subnet or IP range. You have to specify the type. So it's one of the valid values it takes. It will not let you specify anything else. So you create a new boundary and you just remove it by piping it to CM boundary. So that's pretty basic with how PowerShell works. Like if you have been using PowerShell, then that should quickly get you started. You can actually read the help for all these command lines before just trying them, or just use the what if common parameter if you are not looking to actually screw up your environment. Probably test it on your GUAT or test environment before going over to the product. Okay, and in 2012 we have boundary groups, so you can quickly create boundary groups and add actually boundaries to it. So in the above example, if I just copy paste this, and I can actually add a new boundary. So when you run stuff on config manager, okay. Okay, IP subnet. What am I doing wrong here? Let me do a 10.1. Okay. My IP range value is not correct. So okay, let me see which IP my machine is on the Azure. So if I go to Windows Azure, go to my virtual net, I go to configure. Okay, my IP address space is this one. Let me use this one instead. That's why it's showing me in here. Okay, let me press the up key and just replace this particular. Okay, I'm passing the string. Okay, I'm not. Let me try to create a new CM boundary minus type IP range. Let me try IP range minus name test boundary minus value 68. Okay, 192.168.0.68. Okay, finally. So if you make any changes on the config manager console and you immediately head over to your console and try to see those things, they might take some time to reflect over here. That's how it is. It might reflect and it might not. So if you see the boundary I created, it's over here. So if it doesn't reflect over the time, what you can do is probably head over to some other node, come back. That's actually how I do. Go to boundaries, and it still doesn't show up. Just do a refresh. Sometimes the console takes some time to actually load up the data. So you have to be like immediately if you do something on the console and you want to check it over on the the PowerShell console, you did something and you want to check on the config manager console, you have to be a little patient. And I think config manager admins are usually a little bit more patient, because we had worked with SMS 2003, SSM 2007, so that comes in. Okay, so once you have everything, you can create boundary groups, you can add boundaries to it, and where this is really helpful is in creating a test environment. And suppose I have a scenario where what I try to do is to try my replicate my Active Directory OU structure on the config manager console. Suppose I have a OU having all my server 2008 systems and an OU having all my 2012 R2 machines. So what I do is I use the Active Directory module to actually load up things and then pass it over to config manager PowerShell module and manipulate stuff and calculate everything. Let me just check. I think I deleted everything. So what I'll be showing is over here in the device collections. Okay, everything is in place. Let me just. So I'll just remove everything. So what I'll do is this is I should have removed it overnight. Anyways, I'll show you how to remove folders using the provider as well. So if we go to administrative tools, like most of the companies, what they want is they actually want to replicate the OS structure in config manager so that it sort of gives them a little bit more visibility, and then they actually target patches, the software updates through config manager console on it. So suppose you have a patch cycle coming up for server 2008. So what you do is you just point your software update cycle to this particular collection, and it takes care of that. So so let's explore the config manager CM side provider a little bit. So if you see, you will see if you do a ls or a get child item, you'll see the application, the boot image, all those nodes over there which were there. And suppose if you want to manipulate the device collections, so we have something called user collections and device collections in 2012 now. So if I want to manipulate device collection, what I do is cd device collection, and I go inside it and I do a ls. So if I do a ls, the get child item over here, and if I just select names, you'll see that I only see two names because those are the two folder names which you see just below that. You should see these are the two folder names. These two folder names show up when I do a get child item in the CM side provider. So if I go back, that's if I do a remove. It's funny, I discovered a bug. If I do a ls, a test, it doesn't work. Okay, minus name, it doesn't work properly. It's a bug with the CM side provider. I'll have to log it. It doesn't work. So what we do is we use remove item directly. Remove item test, and it works. Okay, I did a confirm minus loss, another bug. So folder is not empty. Okay, I think I should be able to do this using recurse. Okay, it's not implemented yet. So I'll have to head over to this particular thing. Go inside. I think there are machines inside it. So what I'll have to do is, because that's not empty, I'll have to delete it. Okay, let me quickly go ahead and delete it and populate the whole thing again. So in the meantime, if anybody has any questions, probably ping me. So, yep. So let me try again. So the point is right now, doesn't even see it. So right now, the point is inside the config manager PowerShell support is actually evolving a lot. So you might encounter a few gotchas with it. So you have to be able to actually work your way around it. So that's how actually how config manager admin's role, right? You don't have a particular way, you just take a workaround. So WMI is your jail out of free card. So WMI is always help you out whenever you are stuck. So ConfigManager PowerShell modules. Yeah, so Matt is asking me what in terms of performance. So ConfigManager PowerShell module is a bit slow, and that's why I don't usually use it for tools or scripts which will be actually querying WMI database a long time, because what it does, it doesn't gives you flexibility to select at all the attributes. Like config manager is where did my so if I do a get CM site, if I do a get CM site, I get all these attributes with me. Suppose I'm not looking for auto commit, auto refresh. I don't want this particular info. I don't need name value dictionary, and I don't at least need these things. So what it does, it just gives me, spits out everything to me. So suppose I have a script which is doing an inventory, and it gets all this data which it doesn't need. So that's obviously will hamper your performance. So instead, what we can do is use WQL to only select only the properties which we need. So suppose I'm only working with the unique identifier. I just need the suppose I just need the CM site info. Suppose I just need the site name. So right now with your CM site, what you need to do is select CM site name. But what it does is actually, if I could type it correctly. Okay, okay. So in earlier versions of Config Manager, these things like if site name is with a capital S, you should do a small site name. It didn't used to work. So thankfully that is fixed now. So you don't need to actually match the case of the property. So it partially takes care of that. But earlier, if you're working on earlier versions of Config Manager console, that's another gotcha for you. Okay, so performance, if you're looking at performance, go through script against the SMS provider. That's my 2 cents on it. Okay, so hopefully everything is done now. Okay, so I have removed the structure over here. So my end, what I want to do is actually replicate this whole thing over there. So Cortex is one of my OUs, and Server 2008 is one of the another OUs in it, and Server 2012. So what I want to do is inside this create a collection called Server 2008, which has this particular machine in it. Yep, Matt, that's right. It's in the early stages, and it's okay because we got the partial support into Config Manager 2012 itself. So it's evolving right now, and it's evolving with the feedback with the Config Manager community. I think it's evolving at a very good pace, and it's looking forward to actually let it mature and then probably play with it. But I think with CU4 you have a lot of things, it's a little bit stable than other releases. So let me head back to the IC. So I'll just give you a walkthrough of what I'm trying to do. Okay. So in this region, what I'll do is I'll use there's a machine of mine. This is one of my workstations. It's not actually still now had been discovered by Config Manager. So if I just scroll down, you see Dex Chef isn't listed over here. So what I want to do is I want to actually use system discovery to discover this particular machine. So what I do is first I look for the first I'm going to create a test collection. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I actually want this Dex Chef machine to be added to this test collection. Suppose I have a new rollout coming up where I want to actually push the applications to it. So I quickly create the collection. So I think I forgot to import the module. Let me just do that. Okay, if you import the module, you don't land into the CM site provider. You have to explicitly do that. Okay, going back. What is this? Okay, so I'm going to create a new CM device collection, and then I'm going to look for my machine name Dex Chef. So it will create a collection. Okay, and heading back, I'm looking for my machine name Dex Chef, and as evident, it won't be there. It will just it won't give me that. So what I want to do is actually look at the discovery. There is something called system discovery in Config Manager. Config Manager will looks out for the machines which are added to your domain. So it looks you have to actually configure that over in the administration node. So if you know PowerShell, if you know like how to actually explore config manager a little bit with PowerShell, then you'll see that you don't even need to head over there. You get the values over there. So what I mean to show is if I head over to administration, discovery methods, and where is system discovery, and click on the properties, you'll see that the system discovery only looks for machines in these two particular paths, the container system and the OU complex. So what I do is I was able to see that info from here itself. So what I have to do is my chef machine is right now not in one of those paths. So what I'll do is I'll move it to my server 2012 OU before I do something with it. Okay, so I have to import Active Directory module. Okay, and I look for a computer with identity text chef. So that's actually querying Active Directory over here, not the config manager. Okay, that's written from the AD prefix at the command line. Now, so I get okay, text chef is able to locate it, and if you see the distinguished name, it's in CN computers. So it's actually config manager is not even looking for that machine because it looks only for the two parts which I showed you earlier. So what I'll do is I'll quickly move the system to my server 2012 OU, which is in corp dex. Let me remove the what if at the end. Okay, so I think the move was successful. So if I go over here or use, I think I need to refresh. So I see the machine over here. So what I need to do is now I need to invoke the system discovery, or what I can do is I can directly add the DDR, the data discovery record, to the config manager console. That's even a one-liner in config manager. There's a command for doing that. So what I'll do is I'll let the discovery run its magic. So once you run the discovery, you have to head back to, as a good config manager admin, you have to head back to logs. Okay. So it is this.log. This is the Active Directory system discovery.log. So it should show up text chef as being discovered over here. That's pretty basic. I think everybody might be knowing that. So it should take some time, but it will eventually takes form as there. Okay, I see there the DDR was written for system. Okay, let me zoom in. If you see this, it says DDR was written for text chef. So data discovery record is written for text chef, and then config manager processes that DDR and gets that that particular information into the console. It actually drops a .ddr file into one of the inboxes, and then if I head back to assets and compliance devices, okay, if you see that text chef listed over here now. So my machine is now visible to config manager. Okay, now what I can do is I can add that particular machine to my test collection, and whatever software or patches or applications I have mapped to that particular collection will flow down to that machine. So adding a machine is pretty simple and straightforward. You add it via a direct membership query rule, or you put a query membership rule. So direct membership rule will just take that particular CM device record and just push it to that particular collection. So if I just execute this one, so in console, okay, I think I got some error. So okay, the problem is get CM device minus name. Text chef is not listed now. I don't get anything back. That is strange. So if I click on object details, okay, it's able to get that. So it takes some time to process. If it takes some time to process it, it's visible here. On the another console, let me try minus name chef. Still not visible. Okay, it's looking in the all systems collection. All systems, okay, it's not listed here. So the machine is still not here. So what I can show you is quickly adding the, so we'll move on, we'll give it some time to actually replicate to the all systems. Okay, so that was all about how to quickly add a test machine to one of the collections you have, where you have pointed your new patches you want to test, push into that machine, or new applications you want to test, push into that machine. So that is done. So this was all about manipulating collections a bit using Active Directory and ConfigMgr. So now back to the initial problem statement where we want to actually replicate the OU structure. So I want to actually replicate the whole OU structure starting from there. So CopDex, Server 2008, Server 2012. People have actually built up tools around this. So, but I do my own thing. So what I do is I'm actually going to use two PS providers over here. I'm going to use the Active Directory PS provider. So what I do is the partial Active Directory module is already imported in my session. What I do is I put my location to it. I use get child item and to get the OUs to it. So I'll just show you what I intend to do over here. So if I go to this, I just run it. So if you see, I'm inside this particular path, and if I do ls here, I get these two OUs. So I'll use this information to create those two folders in ConfigManager console, and then I use a LDAP filter. So the Active Directory PS provider lets you use LDAP filters actually. So this is a LDAP filter which I got it from the Active Directory user on computer. You can, if you go to the Active Directory user on computer, and if you're not very good with creating LDAP filters like me, what you can do is go to the new, do a query, just give it a test. We are going to run it over here, and then define query, common queries, computers. I am only looking for computers. Suppose I'm looking for everything. Okay, if you're looking up for a particular role, suppose only workstation and servers, do this. You get the filter over here. You just copy the filter and use it with the Active Directory PS module. So that's what I did. So this is the filter which I'll be using. I got it that way, the easier way. So just copy it. Okay. Let me show what it shows you actually. So if I run it over here, you see that it gives me all the computer objects in that particular path. So I'm doing a recurse. So what it does, it goes inside those two OUs and fetches all the computer records from here. So I'll use this information to actually populate my whole ConfigManager console. So first, I think I have explained this part. So I store everything in a variable so that I have to, because I have to reuse them. So after that is done, I eventually need to come back to my PS provider because it won't let me run ConfigManager commands actually. So what I'm doing is I'm setting back my location to the same site provider to the device collection. And what I do is I use this child OUs information to actually go ahead and create the folder structure for me. So if I just run this part, I always use minus verbose storage because I'd like to see what it's doing in backend. So if you see now, it gives you a lot of, so that's the downside of it. So you see the CopDex is created. If I head over to CopDex, it should show me the again. Okay. Remember, those two folders are created. Let me head over to the console. Okay, right now you won't see anything here. I think you need to refresh. You get a CopDex and you get these two folders created. Actually, there are many ways to going over and doing this. I have a post on this. If you are interested, probably you can head over there. You can use WMI if you are a hardcore WMI user. You want to use WMI for everything, then you can use WMI for this too. So this creates my basic OU, replicates my OU structure to my ConfigManager console. And now what I want to do is create a collection here, which has all the machines which are there on this particular view. Suppose so Server 2008 has my Exchange box, 2012 has all these machines. I want those things reflecting on my config manager also. So what I do is I again have everything in place. So now again I use child OUs to actually go ahead and create the collections for me. So what it does is for each OUs, it goes ahead and creates a collection, limiting it to the all systems collection. Okay, and then also moves them to that particular thing, that particular path. So if you see, I create a same device collection over here, and then I'm piping it to move CM object. So what it does is, as soon as the collection is created, then it processes, moves it. Okay. Yeah, Matt, it's correct. Like, yeah, talking with the AD, yeah, that makes sense. But config manager queries, because anyone can read the OU structure, right? So it's not probably it's only for testing, or supposed to actually, or a role where the AD admin is also working as a config manager admin, then probably you would like to replicate this structure. That's just one of the cases. So if you have a sort of a hierarchy you want to actually replicate in config manager console, you can probably use it. Okay, and kids allowed to, yeah. Yep, actual two teams working together, that's always a headache. Okay, so done. Let me just, I think I was here. So what it does is it creates these two device collections and moves them to those particular folders. So I have to come back and refresh here. So if I go here, it shows a collection created and another collection created. Right now the member count is 0. If you see, member count is 0 right now. Okay, so this script later will take care of it. Whichever machines are there, it will just copy them, actually make a member of that, not even copy them. So it might show some error because of that CM device. So what I have here is I had all these computer objects in $computers variable, then I iterate over them. And what I do is I do a little bit of parsing. I actually split the distinguished name to get the OU where they reside in. And actually, I think I was testing it. I need to remove it. Okay, so based on the OU where they reside, that particular switch log gets executed. If then server 2008, this gets executed. Otherwise, the 2012 one. So I'll just go ahead and run it and let it work its magic. Okay, so it's probably throwing one of the errors for the desktop machine because it wasn't able to see that before. So I'll just remove the what if from these two things. I had it there when I was testing it. So that's a good idea actually. Putting a what if at every point of time where you think you're not sure what's going to happen. So let it run and let's head back to the config manager console. Okay. Oops. So, okay, if you see server 2012, now this member count has actually increased to 5. Okay, so if I click on this, I see my 5 members in it. Only right now one machine has a client installed on it. Okay, and server 2008. Okay, I think it was complaining about this particular thing. So this exchange is right now not visible to my config manager. Probably it hasn't been booted up during the time config manager server was up. Oh no, I see Dex share. Oh, I have probably some error with my logic. The bottom line is actually you can do a lot of things with config manager PowerShell coming in, and no need to type actually long lines of WMI code and doing all the sort of manipulation and figuring out what class does what. And if it works for you with config manager PowerShell module right now, then it's go ahead and use it. So Milton, I had actually a lot of regions defined for this. Okay, So let me know how much time I have left, because I thought it was a basic session, and I think I've covered the basics till now. So if you want to move on, I can probably move on and take some questions before I move on. So
No,
we'll
I
just
think you can get some question.
uh, yeah, the presentation. Yeah, okay. So the agenda was, I think everybody sees my. So the agenda was actually show the debug view, then manipulating boundaries and boundary groups. That's straightforward with ConfigMgr PowerShell module. Creating collections, deleting them, and updating members to it. So then the agenda is to actually go ahead and create simple MSI applications. Obviously, PowerShell cannot, like, if you have a very complicated logic for creating applications. Suppose you have a VBS which gets run, then a particular thing, then a EXE gets executed, then you need to wait for it. And every application which you package in ConfigMgr is different, then it will be difficult to automate that. But if you have straightforward standards, like the packaging team, the application packaging team creates a MSI for you, and you as a ConfigMgr admin goes there and adds that, then it makes your life easy. You can use PowerShell to directly take an MSI from a particular share path, suppose, and directly add it to the ConfigMgr console in few lines of code. It goes ahead, and what you can do is create a um, appropriate collection for that particular application. That's anyways how we used to do it in my previous company. So suppose we have a 7-zip application being packaged and set up in ConfigMgr. So we'll have a collection named 7-zip where all the machines where that's supposed to land will be added to it. So that's how we supposed to you were doing it. So with PowerShell, actually that makes your life very easy, because in 2007 what you used to do is follow a SOP. You need to package that particular thing. So if it's MSI, you go there and treat it as a package and do this stuff. Then go to the collections node, get a collection, then add few test machines to it, and those steps are always like repetitive. You don't have to use any other logic. Those are pretty straightforward steps. And if you have that sort of a standard procedure steps in your company, you follow those, then you can very well go ahead and automate those. With ConfigMgr PowerShell module, probably less lines of code than what you would have written in WMI using WMI, but you can very well go ahead and do that. So with ConfigMgr PowerShell module, everything seems to be very straightforward, right? And we talked about, so I'll just not even go into these particular regions. So what I'll show you is actually the WMI way of doing things. So actually, how do you script suppose you have multiple machines running the SMS provider, how do you get that particular information? So what you can do is you can either use sim commandlets which shift with PowerShell version 3, or if you're comfortable, very well comfortable with WMAT commandlets, because there are few gotchas again. These sim instances cannot return you back the lazy properties. So lazy properties are few things which are defined in the schema, the class schema. Suppose you have a very big XML being stored in ConfigMgr. Let me just show you that. If you head over to the software library, so with ConfigMgr 2012, we have something called an application model. So application model makes life easy for ConfigMgr admins. But if you're looking to automate it, it's a rabbit hole actually. So if you go there and see this, there's a property called SDM package. Doesn't let you go back, so I have to scroll down. If you look at the SDM package XML, this whole thing is a huge XML. Not even coming like this is a huge XML file which stores all the things which you have done while creating the package. And ConfigMgr console gives you a UI to do all these things. And this is marked as a lazy property in WMI class, SMS application class. What we mean by lazy is you don't need this information until, if you want this particular piece of information, you have to explicitly request it. So what you do is you can either get a reference to that particular class and do a get. Okay, you do a .get on that particular instance, it returns you back all properties. So once you have that lazy property, you can manipulate it. So with sim commandlets, if I remember correctly, right now it's not possible to do a get or put. So that limits you actually. So most of the stuff, if you are trying to look at WMI, because if you're using Config Manager, the WMI traffic is already allowed in your internal network, at least in your domain network. So you should be like you can either switch between those two. If you're looking at automating more complicated scenarios, then WMI object is the key. So how do you get the information? Where is your SMS provider location? Where do you actually point your config, your PoSHBreakfast SIM commandlets and WMI SIM commandlets and WMI commandlets to point to? So there's something called root SMS is the namespace for the config manager. It derives from the early SMS days, and they haven't changed it. So SMS is the root SMS is the namespace where everything resides. If you look at, there is a class called SMS provider location over there, and if you just query it, now you don't need a session where config manager PowerShell module is loaded. You don't need to win the directory because you are using WMI or SIM now. So you are now the cool crowd. So CDC. My advice is if you're just starting with config manager and PowerShell, then please stick with the config manager module, PowerShell module. And once you are seasoned with it, then probably you can head over to doing things with WMI. So if I do a get sim instance, I see that SMS provider location gives me an instance which tells me that my namespace path is this. So if you look at this, the machine is this one, which hosts my SMS provider and the namespace is root SMS site X. Okay, so this is the namespace. Okay, and with sim, actually you can use the whole thing. You don't need to specify the computer name. But with WMI, you need to specify the computer name separately from the namespace. That's absolute. So with sim, what I meant is, okay. So what I'll do is I'll do a comparison. So CD, let me go to the utils because I want to run a command called get-cm site. If I can type it correctly. So I get all this information, right? We were talking about how the config manager command list gives you, dumps everything to you, and then you have to select things you need. So what we'll do is we'll use sim actually. So right now, pretty basic. I get everything back. The output is almost the same. Okay, so now I want only few things from it. So what I do is I use query. Because I only need site name from. I'm hoping that if you work with config manager already, you know a little bit of WQL. So, and what we can do is probably do a measure of this because I'm only looking for a few measure command and do a probably the end and put how much it takes, and then measure command get-cm site. So if you see in a single command, this won't be much of a difference, but over the period, like if you have a script which calls multiple config manager commandlets, then it will start piling up, and your performance will obviously be slow. So if you are looking to make scripts which are very efficient and looking at them with a performance point of view, then stick to WMI once you have actually mastered using config manager PowerShell module. So yeah, another trick. Yeah, so yeah, I think I heard it from one of my teammates in the previous organization that using WMI is a pain because you have to every time specify this namespace, this computer name, and they don't remember things. Obviously, you can put them in variables and then use them, but it's just a lot of typing. But with PowerShell version 3 coming up, right, you have something called PS default parameters. And when I used to explore a lot of the WMI classes and all those stuff, I used to do this. I used to set the PS default parameter values to actually do this and change my title window to config manager window so that I don't do any WMI queries for other machines because it's pointing to this thing. So what you do is I do this. Okay, so now whenever I do a get sim instance minus class sms underscore site, oops, You don't have to specify the computer name, the namespace parameter every time. And just to not let me do this get sim instance, suppose somebody came back to me and told me minus class win32 bias. Now what it does, it looks for that particular thing on that machine, but it won't be able to find it there. So you have to be a little bit careful here, because if you don't specify anything, it will think that it's going to look for these things on that namespace and that parameter, that particular namespace and that particular machine. The same either way. I think it's the same, because partial command is or WMI. I think WMI provider will log these things. If you are because WMI, you can interact with WMI through a lot of things. Not partial is not the only way. So WMI provider will be doing that, but I'll have to check that. But with PowerShell, I think the recent version of PowerShell gives you the capability to actually audit all the things which you do from the console. So you have to enable those things, and you get all those things, whatever things you did on the console on the event log. But the WMI part might be tricky, so I'll have to check on that. And I think the WMI provider should be doing all the logging. Yes, when it comes to logging, whenever I'd like to share a trick with everyone here. When I was exploring a lot of things, in software library, if I do something, suppose I went to 7-zip, I tried something on it, I went to the properties, I did something. Suppose I changed something on the properties, and I was looking to do the same thing through PowerShell. So what thing helped me a lot was the smsproc.log. So smsproc.log will log all the things which you do on that particular namespace through anywhere. If you call the provider through PowerShell, VB script, all these things will get logged in. And actually, I think we can set up auditing on ConfigManager console. So all the things which you do through WMI on ConfigManager console gets logged here. So smsproc.log, and that's basically awesome, because if you do something over here and it's somehow manipulating some WMI class, it gets listed here. So what I do is, I'll probably show you this. I'll take a more generic kind of example. So suppose what I do is, I'm going to delete this particular collection. So I right click on it and I delete it. Okay, tells me okay. So I head back to my console. Okay, and I scroll down till I see that thing. It will show that. Okay, I think I'm very much up. Discovering few objects. Okay. I deleted server 2008. So what I'll do is I'll search with source further 2008. Okay. You will see that operation listed here, no matter what. It will take some time. Where did you see that? No. I see a lot of discover stuff coming up. Okay, let me try that once more. Let me create a collection. So this is how you do it from the console. So I specify limiting collections all systems. Okay, do next. Okay, I'm not adding any rules. So basically, when we added a machine to it, we did this through PowerShell. We go ahead and add a machine name in this. I think it has discovered that. So that is how you do it through the console, the old way. Okay, and it gets a collection created. So the collection is created. If you notice how many clicks I made, That's terrible, because just for creating a collection, I had to do so many clicks. So this collection got created, okay, and this log provider should log everything. Okay, I'm looking at the wrong log here. That's why it's AD says discovery. Okay, let's do this much. Okay, so this is your provider log. Okay, so as you see that it's telling you process insert instance notification for this collection. So if you look at the collection ID of that thing, it would have started here, somewhere around here. See, I'm using ConfigMgr console. So it's telling the username is this guy. He's using this ConfigManagement.exe and all the things. He has these many permissions. He has requested access to this particular thing. He is doing an execute method. User has permission. Then he processed insert instance notification of SMS collection. So what it basically says is I did an insert to the database via the WMI provider for this particular class. The key is collection ID. The value is this particular thing. Okay. Okay. No, there are no commanders actually, but I think the convert from string, which is the new commandlet, right? With PowerShell v5, we should be able to like spin something up which gives you all the things which somebody did, probably pass the logs and generate an output and all those things. But I think ConfigManager stores all the user message queries. I don't remember the name, but it stores everything, pretty much everything which you do through the console or PowerShell or VBScript, everything through WMI what you do, it will just make a log of it. Probably we have more seasoned admins, ConfigManager admins who had worked with ConfigManager extensively. Probably they might throw light on it, but you can actually log everything in ConfigManager console. Because there was this one time where someone from our team deployed a reboot package to all the servers OU, server collection, and it was very easy to actually track back who did it. But the funny thing is PowerShell saved the day for us that day. So we quickly wrote a script which will query WMI, and we targeted the VIP machines. So the VIP machines, if there's that reboot.exe package running, we'll just do a full scale and save the day in that way. And we did a very good job of doing that. We were able to contain the whole thing. So that's memories. Yes. Okay. Yes. And when I was actually exploring the whole thing, I was working in 2007. So I think I'm done with the demo part. I just head back to the slides. So when I was actually exploring a lot of ConfigManager, presenting is thing. Okay, so there are a few changes which are done in command instance before. So I was talking about when I was exploring a lot of ConfigManager at that time, because what we used to do was there was this Windows 7 rollout happening, and we had to push like a lot of surprisingly they never used to use user groups for the deployment. We had to actually key in each machine name in the queries. So it was a lot of like manual tasks. If I can show you, so suppose there's this collection. A normal typical day work for me would look like this. I'll go to the properties, and in the membership rules, you can either add a rule to the direct rule, or you can create a query rule. So we had this query rule for this, suppose. So what we used to do is edit query statement and add machine names to it so that the application gets deployed to it. We were supposed to do a lot of things after that, like refresh the machine collection machine policy so that it knows that it has something new to actually download. So, but we used to skip that, and we used to get a lot of tickets that you deployed something, but hey, but I haven't got that particular application till now. All those things. There was a lot of manual tasks, and if people who have worked in deploying applications they would know that at a certain point this query thing breaks. If you're trying to remove something from the query and it has more than 1,000 length, 1,000 characters, 1,000 words, I think, 1,000 machine names, you cannot edit it in this console and save it back. It will not let you do that. It will just trim the content to that particular length. You can keep on adding, but you cannot remove something and save it back. So that was the pain point because we had to remove the older machines, XP machines, and add the new ones. And nobody used to remove the old XP names, and somebody got the same host name, and they used to get a licensed version of Visual Studio, and they were just a clerk. So those were the funny times. So at that point of time, that gave me a huge kick to actually go ahead and look at the automation capabilities, and I think till day they use this tool in my previous company. Okay, my execution policy. When I run it during testing, it will show set execution policy. Execution policy, remote, and we'll do it for this process itself. So I written this tool, I named it PoSHDeploy. So instead of going to the ConfigManager console, I can run it through my workstation, my XP box. I used to just select the collections goes over there. I added all these things later. You have to do a test SMS connection, and you enter the machine names, or you can actually browse a text file where you need to push the application. Suppose this. So it loads all those things, and when you click on add name to the query, it will take care of adding the names to the query and not screw up. So once you add the query, it will just even do a machine policy refresh, and the application used to land on the devices in I think maximum 5 minutes. So customers were happy. My manager was not happy because I automated half of the job. Okay, but managers are never happy. So another thing before leaving, I'd like to actually show is like many of the config manager admins used to use this client center, the old client center for config manager 2007. The new one is even better. It has been revamped and it uses PowerShell extensively. Suppose I connect to my machine, or you can give any machine name which has the client installed on it. Okay, you connect to it. Okay, and suppose you are looking to do some things. Suppose you are going to do install software, or suppose you are what we used to typically do is do a machine policy refresh, evaluate machine policy, or request machine assignments. So when you click on this, you should notice at the end you see the PowerShell commandlet being executed. So that's pretty cool because that gives you a pointer on what's happening behind the scenes. So what you can do is copy this, take to the PowerShell ISD, and automate all the client activities you want to actually. Yep, and kudos to the guys who have written this. Like they have outdone themselves because I used to use Client Center for 2007, and I actually wrote a lot of things which Client Center used to do in PowerShell, and it never occurred to me actually like giving that sort of functionality in the Client Center itself. So teach a man to fish, right? So you get these things, take that, you just automate the heck out of your environment. You already know that Config Manager PowerShell module is there to automate things for you. If you are looking to automate things on the client side, Client Center is there for you. Only thing that this particular tool assumes is PowerShell routing is enabled for you. So basically it uses WMI, so you are safe on that side. But if you click on Open Console, it does open a PS session to that machine. So that will come, but I think it will take some time for organizations to actually enable PS remoting entirely through the forest of the domain. But eventually that's going to come. So I think I'm done for the day. There are a lot of nodes actually copies the config manager console in terms of look and feel. So software distribution, if you're looking to do the software summary, you want to actually show the pending software, you see the WMI query being run behind the scenes. Same queries if you want to collect the data from 1,000 machines, take this, just specify the command as computer name, and you're good to go. So you get all the lists, all those things, history. I don't have my config manager environment is pretty new because I did install it recently. So, but that gives you a lot of things. Okay, thanks Anirban. So Anirban here is one of our, he's a regular member of PowerShell Bangalore user group, and you can see him everywhere supporting PowerShell groups. So nice seeing you. And Jyoti is also here. So Jyoti is one of the config manager admins. And I think we had fun last time when we had the config manager session there. And we have We have a hackathon in Milton actually. So
Yeah,
on
yeah, next weekend.
on 28th we have around 40 people who will come up with the problems. I think we'll set up a GitHub repo, so where people actually push out the codes whatever they tried, so that it's sort of a memoir that they did that. Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks Milton for having me.
Yeah, thanks for it.
Milton, you there?
Hey, hold on. Uh,
Okay, I think Milton saved the day today with the
yeah,
team viewer.
Yeah, he did.
sorry.
Thanks a lot.
Because there was too many echo when we do a team view,
Yeah.
so I have to put myself on mute. So
Okay.
yeah, so try not to record so many different echo into the video.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, anyway, Deepa, this is really a good session. I think we really learned a lot on Config Manager and how we can use PowerShell to automate certain thing in Config Manager, which we
Yep.
believe that a lot of things that is done using click through the GUI is definitely wasting a lot of time. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Really happy
Thank you very
have you
much.
online today, and hope to see you soon in September.
Yes. Sure.
Okay. Is there any other question that anyone want to ask? Last minute question.
Not from me. Thank you very much for today. It was really good feedback.
Yep.
I learned a
Yeah.
lot
Thanks.
from that, so thanks a
Thanks for
lot.
having me. Yeah.
Okay. If there's no question, I think we probably will call it a day.
Okay. So we ought to have a recording up over the next week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And we'll email a link out when it's available for people to watch again.
We
Yeah.
strive to upload the video within three days after the recording. So this is is a goal that we're gonna set for the user group.
Yep.
Yeah, we try to, although sometimes it can take a little more time. But yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
we'll certainly try to get it up as quick as possible.
Okay, Milton, I'd like to say that like the PowerShBreakfast site, I used to actually look at the recordings, and I've seen that like very good speakers have been here. So
Yeah.
you guys are doing a very good job. Like if you want to get started and you look at those recordings, that gives you a huge push.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, we also welcome other presenter that's willing to share anything with
Yeah.
PowerShell. Just
Yeah.
drop me or Matthew or Benjamin an email.
Yeah.
Give us a shout out in any of the social media. Just let us know that you would like to participate in any of the Power Breakfast. We are happy to host you. We struggle with content. Me, Matthew, and Ben can't be generating enough content for a month-to-month basis. We really depend on committee to work on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pass along the message in our user group as well.
Sure, it'll be
Probably,
good.
yeah.
There's something that we need to talk about then. Okay.
Yes. Yeah,
Great.
yeah, we will.
And I think our next one is on 18th of April, and that's going to be me talking about Azure Remote App.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
Great.
that's in about a month's time. Okay.
Great. Good to have you all.